Well, hello, John.
Hello, Belinda. It's good to see you again.
Oh, yeah, it's been a few years though. Uh,
Yeah.
it was interesting our last talk. So you have been appointed 2019 to 2021 Ohio Beat Poet Laureate, and then 2022 through 2023, you were the National Beat Poet through the National Beat Poetry Foundation. Did that put a kind of a charge to your career, or is it just it's nice to say, isn't it?
Yeah, it is nice to say. I was kind of surprised to be selected both times.
Yeah.
And honored to be in the company of there are just so many great beat poets, historically and today around Paul Richmond, Ron Whitehead, Chris
Mhm.
Van Noy, Lee DeRosier, and yourself. I mean, gosh. Uh, but at first I was a little nervous about it, a little uncomfortable because I'm like, gosh, can I live up to, this title? But it was a great opportunity to, I think, reach more folks. I was already doing publishing and touring around doing poetry, but just to have that affirmation to feel like somebody sees and appreciates your work really meant a lot to me, especially, as I get older and also it kind of opened a few more doors too, because suddenly places that were like, oh, well, we don't really want poets in our bookstore because nobody comes to see poets. Now suddenly they see Beat Poet Laureate and they're like, oh yeah, we'd love to have you
Yeah,
at our
Gloria.
bookstore.
Yeah. Well, you
So
are
yeah, I'm really grateful to Debbie Kilday and to everyone who keeps this going and is just serving poets all over the country and all over the world.
world, yes. Well,
Yeah.
you're a pretty good performance poet. I've seen some of your work on video. Um, so do you
Thank you.
actually like travel on a regular basis to other states to perform, or just ever great once in a while? Tell me about your poetry life.
Well, especially the past 10 years. Before that, I only did around Ohio and maybe a couple forays, Michigan or Pennsylvania or West Virginia. But in the past 10 years since my wife passed away, I kind of I started going on the road more in a way to because it was hard for me to be home alone around all her things, and it was almost like if I was on the road, I could imagine she was still there and still home. So
Oh.
in a way, it was a coping mechanism for me. But, I also came to very much enjoy traveling because of meeting all the people. And there's so many good poets in all these nooks and crannies of America. You just places you'd never expect. But there they are, poets, laboring and in doing the good work
Mhm.
in their communities. And so now I pretty much do it spring, summer, and fall. I'm on the road a lot. And then in the winter, stay home and catch up on bills and catch up on writing and other things that need done work. And
So do you have a part-time job or seasonal job to help fill in, with things?
well, for many years, I was doing landscaping, and during the summer, especially the spring, summer, and fall, and then whenever I was home, and also a little bit on the road, but also bartending here and there, and wherever I could get a job, and selling, just hustling, selling books, and
You sell many books when you read. You're such a good performer. I'm thinking you're going to sell at least a few.
yeah, I mean, I definitely do okay when I have a new book out, and then it starts tapering off after a while as everybody who wants it has gotten it.
Yeah.
But I definitely find it's easier to sell books when you're in person, when you're meeting people. And, I definitely am more likely to buy somebody's book when I've heard them and met them, shook their hand and,
Hmm.
made some sort of personal connection, that feels more real
Hmm.
than just going online sometimes.
About what age did you start writing poetry?
Oh, when I was in high school, so probably 10th grade, I had a teacher who, I uh, kind of had a crush on my high school English teacher. And so I tried my best to write a really good descriptive paragraph, and I sent it in for one of my assignments. And she said, "Oh, this is poetry. You're a poet." And so that's when I first started thinking, well, maybe I'm a poet.
Well,
And
did you start writing on a regular basis then after your?
yeah, and well, and a lot of it too was journaling. So the following year I had an English teacher, Ned Lyons, who, encouraged us to journal every day. And if you turned it in at the end of the semester and or the quarter, whatever it was, and for every day you wrote something, you got a point. So all you had to do was write. You weren't graded like this is good or bad, but just a way of getting in the habit of writing every day. And sometimes it was, diary entries, sometimes it was, thoughts, or sometimes it poems.
Right. You have a really interesting story, and I should have led with this about Crisis Chronicles, where you got that name and those things that are around that. I'd love to hear that story.
Oh, well, yeah, well, when I was young, I ended up spending some time in jail, and I was playing keyboards for church services as a way to, have access to a musical instrument in there. And a friend of mine kind of had a mental health crisis and stood up in the middle of the church service one day and was like, "Why is everybody asking Jesus to, do this and come here, and when I'm right here in your midst and you don't recognize me?" And so I said, huh, looks like Joe's having a crisis, a Jesus crisis. And then later, my friend Tim and I thought, that's a good name for a band or something. And so I started using it online when I began blogging, just because I was kind of, you know, I'm a kind of bashful person in real life. I sometimes can hide it well when I'm up on stage or doing readings. But I liked using that name, Jesus Crisis.
Mhm.
And then eventually I got comfortable enough and made friends in the poetry community and started going by my real name.
Right. And but you do publish you publish other people under Crisis Chronicles Press, don't you? Quite a few people
Hmm. We've
published.
done about 125 books now.
Wow.
And yeah, I don't do as many as I used to. At one point, I was publishing like 15 titles a year, and now it's much more sporadic, well, since the pandemic, especially.
Well, what determines what you publish? Is it like a new voice, a popularity? What just strikes you in a gut, or all of it, or none of it? What makes you want to publish somebody?
Well, it's mostly what really inspires or some sort of thought or feeling in me. I'm like, ooh, this is uh this is something that needs to be read by more people. And sometimes, it's been, very well-known authors, like a couple of our authors, Alex Gilson, D.R. Wagner, have been well known and respected for decades. And several of our authors, it was like their first chapbook, and nobody really knew them, but I felt like somebody ought to know them. But really it's just kind of what tickles my fancy in the moment, and that's kind of evolved and, goes in different directions over the years.
Are you active in the Ohio Poetry Association? And if so, what do you do there?
Yeah, well, currently I'm the second vice president of the OPA, and we really try to support Ohio poets, and we have quarterly workshops. We have regular online monthly members open mics. We have in coming up in the spring, we're hosting a Sun and Moon Festival in Yellow Springs, Ohio, with Jeffrey Landis, who's a great poet and a scientist for NASA, is our keynote. And so it's kind of like, combining the stars and, it's a really good festival we do every 2 years, and we're hosting the James Wright Festival in 2027. James Wright is a now deceased but very highly regarded Ohio poet, and 2027 will be the 100th anniversary of his birth. So we're working on that. And I've also put together a publishing workshop here in Cleveland that's happening at our local South Euclid Library on November 15th, where we'll have a bunch of different poets leading workshops. We'll have 8 small presses in a book fair. And so I'm looking forward to that. So there's always something going on with Ohio Poetry Association.
It seems to be one of the more active ones, or at least I've been hearing lots of things going on. Well, at this point, I would love for you to read 2 or 3 poems, maybe 6, 8, 9 minutes, whatever.
All right. I will do that. So, one thing I've been writing about this year when I have time is my father's. I found out when I was like 8 years old that my dad wasn't really my biological father. And then I only met the biological father one time when I was 19. Well, he passed away this summer, and so it's kind of opened up the floodgates. And I've been writing about both of my fathers and this whole experience, finding out I was adopted. And 17 September 1966. I debuted the same Saturday as Mission Impossible, the same month as Star Trek, the same day as beatboxer Doug E. Fresh. You Can't Hurry Love was the #1 song the week I was born, when Mom and I could not wait for my Halloween due date. My last name was different then. No father on my birth certificate. He was off in a galaxy called Vietnam. She was fresh out of high school. Trick or Treat arrived in Richwood, West Virginia, 6 weeks and 2 days too soon, and I began looking for a costume.
Wow.
This one's entitled Matter Waves. Mom told the story of how during the first year of my life, my hair was curly and wild before the fellow she married, who became dad, took me to my first barber and ordered a crew cut. To his relief and her disappointment, it grew back straight, like his, a reflection of Dad's quest to shape me. Now, nearly 60 years later, whenever I grow it out again, an irrepressible wave betrays the truth that I would never be as tame and straight as he.
Interesting. And one more, please.
All right. Aim high, which is you may know, the Air Force slogan.
Oh,
Two of my fathers found harm in Vietnam. And now the government they served, the one they rely on for healthcare, plans to gut Veterans Affairs by 80,000 workers. Could this mean no more hearing aids? Loss of treatment for Agent Orange related Parkinsonism? Loss of life saving mental health counseling? I lost them both in one way or another as a result of their service, and now they may lose vital services because billionaires with bulging waists claim to want to cut waste. These so-called cost savers fly jets to golf, pay millions of taxpayer dollars to attend a Super Bowl and Daytona 500. They launch a Tesla into orbit while receiving more in subsidies than my fathers together have received for their lifetimes of work. If there's fat, trim it off, but start at the top and let it trickle down.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I know. Boy, could we talk about what's going on, but we won't do right now. We know. Well, thank you so much, John, for being
Aw,
with us, and
thank you, Belinda. I really appreciate it.
we'll be seeing you around sooner or later.